Hello and welcome to part 2 of this Arthur and Merlin Knights of Camelot very special episode of the Filmmakers Podcast. So this is part 2 of our Arthur and Merlin Knights of Camelot masterclass. If you've not listened to part 1 yet, then go straight there now, because on there were some of the actors, including Richard Brake. We had production, we had makeup and costume. But for those who've already listened, thank you very much. So coming up on this part 2 is more guests from the making of Arthur and Merlin, which is out now, by the way. You can get it on digital, on DVD, or on Sky Movies. Sky Movies. Arthur and Merlin. Knights of Camelot. Sky. Believe in better. I don't know if that's the quote. But on this episode, we have the production designer of the film, Jamie Foote, who talks to us about how he finds props, how he works with the crew, and some great ways to be a production designer on a film set. And also we have some of our actors, including Joel Phillimore, who plays our wonderful baddie Modred. We also have Jennifer Matter, who plays the witch, Vortigone, and we have our very own Guinevere, Stella Stocker. Then we move into the post side of things with our editor, Oliver Parker. And finally, we go on to our producer and post-producer, Jeet Thakrar, as we discuss how we delivered the movie. All hosted with me, Giles Alderson. I directed Arthur and Merlin, if you didn't know. The DOP, Andrew Rodger, and producer, Lucinda Rhodes Thakrar. So, I'm just going to jump you straight back in because obviously it was a massive bumper edition, so it kind of jumps in, but you get the gist. So here is part 2 of Arthur and Merlin Knights of Camelot special edition. If you enjoy this, tell your friends and go to iTunes and give us a lovely review. Why not? This is bumper, this is mega. You won't get this anywhere else. Well, you might, but I haven't heard it. And if you have, it's not going to be as good as this, is it? I don't know, I'm waffling. So here it is, filmmakers, enjoy. So, coming up next, we've got Stella Stocker, who plays Guinevere. We have Jennifer Matter, who plays Vortigone, and Joel Phillimore, who plays Modred, coming up. But because a lot of their scenes were in the castle, and we shot in Caerphilly Castle. Andy, I wanted to talk about what it was like shooting in the castle. For me, it was like a dream come true. I've wanted to make a film set in a castle since I was a kid, and I didn't even want to be a filmmaker back then, but I wanted to run around with a sword. I wanted to do 1066. I believed in it so much. I loved castles. It gives me that magical feeling of passion. And now suddenly we're filming in this gorgeous castle. How did it feel for you as a DP to obviously make this thing look beautiful as you did, but also we had to think about where we were putting cameras, how we were doing this with natural light, and we were 2 floors up most of the time, so we can't even put a light through the window if we wanted to. From your experience here, how did we go about it?
I mean, like, first of all, like, what a privilege to shoot in castles. I mean, you can't really complain. Yeah. I mean, for all the technical problems, like, you know, there were things like when it was raining outside, 10 minutes later it was raining inside because the rain would just track through and come inside. So keeping the camera dry was a nightmare, but Oscar and Nathan sorted that out. But no, I mean, it was lovely. It was a challenge, but I'm glad that we decided to shoot with 90% natural light, you know, whenever we could. We got those big candles, we had that natural light, and just being able to schedule around when we had good light was invaluable. I don't think it would look as naturalistic or as dramatic if we weren't able to shoot that way. No, I just bloody loved it. I want to do it again.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Let's do it again.
It's true. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it now.
Yeah.
Should we do it tomorrow?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
I'm free.
Oh, no, I'm busy.
All right.
Well, that's killed
Tuesday
it.
then.
Tuesday then.
Yes, Giles.
So from your side of it then, booking somewhere like Philly and for us to film there, because you'd filmed there before, how is that managing in a space like that? How do we actually go about, how do you get a production to run in a working castle where there is real people? And I mean that real people, we are real people, but members of the public walking around.
Yeah, what Giles meant there was we couldn't close the whole castle off to the public because you just can't do that. You know, it's a tourist attraction. And
they make a lot of money from that.
They make a lot of money, yeah, of course they do. Yeah. I think we were in there for 8 days in total, 8 to 10 days maybe, and to lock off that to the public. Obviously, Caddy would lose a lot of income. So we had to lock off certain areas of the castle that we're using for a green room, for the catering, for costume, makeup, toilet facilities, everything else, and also for the areas which we were shooting, and also the areas which were being dressed for the following scene. So it was a lot of manpower went into that, because obviously we can't leave a certain area with props and set dressing and
Equipment
everything,
and camera stuff.
So we have to have a production assistant there at all times, and then we would, swap in and out. So it is very hard to manage, especially in that vast area. I don't know if any of you know Caerphilly Castle. It's absolutely stunning. I absolutely love filming there, and I would do every movie there if I could.
Even a war film.
Even
a
space movie.
A comedy space movie.
But to manage that vast space are you two being sensible?
No.
So to manage that vast space is a nightmare.
Yeah, well, right. It's difficult to manage all that space, but it's so good. I do remember this, because it's a castle and it's a working castle. They have kids go there, and for kids they need entertainment. And at Caerphilly they have a big dragon, and they have buttons that kids can press, and noises can come out of these bits and pieces.
It's not a real
the
dragon. I just want to point that out.
Oh yes, just to point out, it's not a real dragon. It would have been. Well, I thought it was looked real. And these buttons you can press. They go, oh, I'm Mr. Castlemain. And obviously they just feel like that. Oh, I'm Castlemain. These amazing voices.
Is that
they don't
Brian
sound like
Blessed?
babes.
That sounds exactly like that.
Oh, I am man of castle. I'm Brian Blessed. So this was obviously ignore my terrible impressions there, but the fact is that you have this when you're trying to shoot a scene, and it's a serious scene in the chapel area. You're trying to shoot something, and you've got candlelight, and they're all very moody with each other, and they're suddenly in the middle of this scene of emotions are going, and you might get a tear, and suddenly you'd get, oh, I'm the dragon of the castle, booming up through the stairwells and an echoing
poor
castle. Sarouche, bless him, our wonderful sound guy.
He's wonderful.
He'd just be like, can we might have to go again on that. I was like, but it was great performance.
He's such a patient man. He's so patient, Sarouche. Galumpa.
The castle was amazing to shoot at, and mainly our actors who were there were Joel, Jen and Stella. So why don't we chat to them about their experience of this whole movie and being there at the castle? Should we do it?
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy. Hello, Stella. Hello, Joel.
Hey.
How are you?
Doing good, thanks.
How's it feel, the whole build-up, for you guys to be, lead roles in it and playing Guinevere and Modred respectively? How does that feel, Stella?
Really good. It feels like it's been a while, and I sort of have to think about all the things we did, because you do forget. But seeing the trailer and some photos, it does come back, and you remember all the the shooting. I remember the first day really clearly, because you go on set first time in your costume, and then that's it. It starts rolling, and the film has started for you. So excited, really excited about it.
Yeah, I bet, Joel.
Yeah, really buzzing. I'm really excited for it to be out there in the world for people to see. Excited to be a bad guy for once.
The two of you were our first day on set for me, Andy, Lucinda. So we were all getting to try and understand that, everyone, the new crew, the new cast, how does it feel to be in a castle, at Caerphilly? Where are the light switches? How does the smoke machine work? All these little things that we had to sort of come up against. And yet we had you two brilliant professionals just, nailing the scenes and being on it. And, we're always so worried that first day, aren't we, Andy, of getting a really good shot and getting that first thing moving. Mm. Definitely. How did it feel to be in a castle? Because playing Guinevere, and for me and Andy, we're talking about that anyway, as to shoot that. But how did it feel for actors you're in the costume, you're in a castle? Did that help at all?
Massively. I mean, for me, because I've been there for such a long time and I'm a hostage there. So to me, it had to feel like this is my home. This is what I see every single day. It just helped so much in that we had so little equipment, as in technical equipment. There weren't lights everywhere. It really felt like the space. And to me, that was tremendous. You go in there and it's half the work done for you. Now you just have to accept it and roll with it.
Yeah, so true. We'll just stop there a sec. Jen, can we hear you?
Hello,
Hey,
can you hear me?
Jen's
Yay!
here.
Hi, everyone.
But thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. What a treat to see you all.
It is a treat, isn't it?
It's been bloody ages.
And then, well, actually, the Dare took 4 years. But
4 years.
Four by the time it comes out in the UK.
Wow.
So, the King Arthur, or Arthur Merlin, Knights of Camelot, to give it its full title, we shot this in October. So technically, that's only, 7-8 months? So really, that's a really short turnaround time. And I think, Lucinda, at first, we were putting this out in March. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, we had to deliver by January, and then we were given a little bit more time just because the release had moved. So Giles and I jumped up and down going, yeah! It's always nice to have, longer to be able to tweak those things that you want to make better. And I know an artist can always go back and, go, oh, I wish that was better, I wish that was... But it is good to have the time, and we're really pleased because delivering in January really would have been tight. We would have made it, and it would have been a great movie. But having the extra time was welcomed, wasn't it, Giles?
Oh, huge! It made a big difference, and you can do it in that time. But then you're suddenly cutting the corners, and that little extra time made us able to watch it again and tweak those little things that we couldn't before, and spend more time on the post side to really work the edit. Yeah. Oh yeah, and the grade just really enhanced the film and tweak whatever we needed to in the edit. Jen, we were just talking about how it felt to be in a castle, to be in the costume, how a change that would be to, normally you wouldn't be. You'd be in a forest or a field or a house, and suddenly you're in a castle. Did that enhance your experience, of playing Vortigone and this wonderful character that you did?
It made such a difference just to be surrounded by that landscape, apart from anything else, and in the castle, which it seemed to kind of root you in what you're, just to make you feel like you were grounded in that reality. It made such a difference. And Robin did such an amazing job on the costumes that like the weight of my cloak and everything I was wearing, and I had a corset, and so feeling that kind of constriction as well was amazing. I think it all lends to it.
Yeah, it does. How did it feel that first day for you when you came on set and saw what we were doing and what was happening? What went through your mind, to play a role like this as well in a historical action?
I was actually really quite scared. I was really scared. It just feels overwhelming. It did for me. And playing a witch, where in a way I had a lot of liberty to do different things because it wasn't necessarily, a real person you're necessarily playing.
I wanted to get the three of you on together because you were our castle team, in terms of you were the wonderful people who just brought that to life for us, and we really loved filming there, and therefore you really helped that. What tricks now and tips to actors who might be going in to play a role like this, whether it's a damsel in distress or a witch, or an illegitimate son who's tortured and pained by someone who's really playing a bastard? What advice now, looking back, would you give an actor who's to play that role? Stella, let's start with you.
Finding the historical context is really helpful, of the clothes, how they moved, how they spoke. I mean, that really helps. And then I found a lot of strength in acting just off Joel. So use your partner and use what they're giving you. And to me, it was just incredible because Joel helped me so much by just being amazing at his job, and I just played off him. So yeah, don't be too set on how you're going to play something, but wait until you're in that moment and then take what's given to you. That makes it alive, and that brings authenticity to it.
Great answer. Joel, are you going to back her up there?
Yeah,
I was going to say, what's she talking about?
Thank you, Stella. That was very kind of you. No, 100%. Being present in the moment, trusting in the rapport that you build with your fellow actors, trusting in the rapport that you've built with the director and the DOP. I mean, working with people like Giles and Andy, and just having the space to go and explore, go and kind of really delve into what you believe your character is, and then giving you the trust and space and faith to deliver that. And then being in the moment with such an astonishing actress like Stella, or with Jen, we had some great scenes together as well. and just thriving off that and feeding off that.
Yeah, that's great. Jen?
I think, I mean, in terms of my character, I would say don't be afraid of making quite strong choices. It's easy to kind of, and I mean, I don't know if I made those right choices, but I mean, I remember saying once to you in a scene, I said, "Oh, do you think she should like squeal like a pig now?" And you were like, "No." I was like, "Oh, okay." I mean, not the best gem I've brought to the table, probably. Oh God. But I think don't be afraid to think outside the box. Don't be afraid to kind of make choices about how you're standing, where your weight is, like just those physical things that really can help build those sort of characters, I think.
Great.
You were saying it was nice to have the space in the rooms. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of kid around. I guess the other part of this was maybe time was a little tight on some of this. How did you find? It's a question for all of you, really. I guess maybe start with Jen. But how did you find moving so quickly and like going through the scenes when there's so much to do in so much short time? How did you cope with that?
I quite like that, to be honest. Personally, I like to do a kind of intense scene and just like rattle through it. I think my kind of first instinct to something is probably my right one. Mm-hmm. I think I'm better on my first takes than I am, 4 takes in. So I would rather work like that. And it's just the nature of it all, the rooms, like you say, the lighting, the smoke, everything about it kind of, and dodging the weather, even in the castle. Like we had bits and pieces where, you could only shoot within a few minutes because it had just stopped raining or something. So you kind of had to be on the ball,
Yeah, Joel, same question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think working quick and working with energy it brings so much to it. I think when there's kind of big technical set pieces, I know there was a couple of days that we did in the castle where there were, pickups across 8-9 different characters that were required, all of those reaction shots, all the establishing shots, like that takes time. I remember I think our last scene in the castle took a full 7 or 8 hours, didn't it? Something like that.
Yes.
The one on the table. And there's something wonderful about that. There's something wonderful about like really getting into the nitty gritty of how you're going to build that story, and especially watching you and Andy work together to figure out exactly how you're going to build all those characters into that space. But then also, I mean, our last shot together, you and me, Stella, was the one by the pond in the pissing rain, and knowing that we needed to get it done quickly because otherwise everyone was going to get pneumonia and all the hair and makeup would be destroyed. And there's something great about that, and that was a great energy coming out of that scene.
It's a great scene, yeah. I've seen it a couple of times now. It's it's really strong.
It's interesting. It's the only one for you two really that's outside the castle, and it was something in the edit that we looked at quite a bit to say, should we keep this? Because where is it in relation to the castle? Why are they outside? But it's such a strong scene that I really want to keep it. I was like, but it does something, and plus you've got a really good plot moment in there as well, but we could have potentially moved that somewhere else. But it comes alive, doesn't it? It's really interesting.
I love the urgency. It just helped me. I love the sort of, you have to get this done, you have to do it, in this time, and it sort of created a relationship with the camera as well, Andrew, is where you're in this together and you have to get this now. And I just loved it. And for me, I'm not much of a rehearser. So I like technical rehearsals to know what you're doing and then just go for it, because for me that makes it real.
What have you learned from doing something like Arthur and Merlin that you're taking forward, and what tips could you give actors to work with directors?
I've really learned the value of preparation, because there were such changeable paces to the different filming days, because there were so many different locations and setups. Being able to show up and work as soon as director shouts action, and know that you have done the work that's going to give you the foundation to then go and play with your scene partner from then. Do the work beforehand. Don't leave it till the night before. Don't leave it until you're sat in the makeup chair. Like, know who you are, know who this character is, and know what your boundaries are for that. If you're working with people like Giles and Andy who absolutely know what they're doing, listen to them.
Who are the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has to say that.
I know Jen and Stella will back me up here, where you arrive on set for the first day and you're not entirely sure how it's going to go. You're not entirely sure what the look and feel is going to be. all of the different personalities that are there on set, and then such calm, reassuring, assured presences as Giles and Andy, welcoming you on into the scene, giving very clear, concise instructions, and being able to see that they're capturing some magic. Just ride that energy, ride the fact that you're in the hands of people who know what they're doing. And if you get the sense that they don't know what they're doing, don't say anything about it. Just get your head down and do it.
And then say nice things about them on a podcast. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the way forward.
Yeah, likewise, man. I mean, like, the first day was great walking away because we'd seen the level of performances you guys were going to give. And it's the same for us. We're just like, okay, yeah, right, they've got this. Great. Okay, this is going to go well.
Yeah, so I'd say that to all actors: come massively prepared and really know your part, and be prepared to play as well. Know what you're doing, but also be prepared to play and change it up, because then you can give your director so many different options, and I think that's vital. Stella, same question to you then, I suppose. Maybe just working with directors, what did you learn from this, and working with teams on set, DPs, camera team, production, producers, all that sort of stuff?
Trust. I mean, especially the people closest will always be the director and the camera. So you have to trust them implicitly, even if you don't always understand what's going on. I mean, especially if you're shooting so wildly out of sequence. My favorite direction from you was, and will always be, acted like you mean it. That will always be my favorite.
Brilliant bit of advice. Act it like you mean it, love. Did it work? I mean, did that bit of direction work for you?
It totally worked.
Right.
I get what it did. Yeah. And then, trusting the camera. I mean, from the first moment after I'd worked out that Andy is the cameraman, I wasn't sure at the beginning.
Who did you think he was?
That's a guy always holding the camera all the time. So weird.
Just wandering around.
Holding the camera. He was like, we weren't introduced as such, so I was like, okay, this must be
I
the
don't talk
DOP.
to actors. Yeah, it's not my thing.
Big time.
But once that was established and that trust is there, I just enjoyed working with Andy so much. It was just brilliant.
Yeah. You too.
And what was lovely as well is you got on the camera as well at one point. You were so close to the camera team. Yeah. And what was amazing about you, Stella, is you turned up when you didn't need to as well. You loved the camaraderie on set. It's even in the rain, you'd be like, no, I'm here. And I was like, no, but it's raining, Stella. I need you tomorrow. I don't want you to get ill. And you were like, but I really like it. I want to stay and watch. And you even got on the camera at one point and Andrew was showing you how to do it.
There you did, yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing.
I learned a lot. I have such admiration for the camera department. I just love it. And it's always amazing to learn something. And then eventually, because Joel, Tim, Lancelot and Arthur, we all lived together. So eventually I just didn't want to stay behind. I just wanted to be there on set with them and, for moral support and everything. Yeah, it just really felt like a family.
It did. There was actually a scene, because you were around a lot and it was great, and I loved having you around as well. I really enjoyed that. I put you in 2 extra scenes that you weren't going to be in. One in the Lady of the Lake scene, and another when you appear in I can't remember what it was in the forest. But anyway, we rewrote stuff because it really worked and enhanced the film. We went, well, actually, if we have Guinevere here in Arthur's mind because he is going a bit crazy, what's true, what's not? It worked really well. And you were like, no, I'll do it. And you were like, I'll get in the water as well if you want. I went, no, I definitely don't want you to do that. It's freezing cold water. But the fact you were a trooper and so up for that, for me, as a director, was amazing, because I just went, well, Stella's fantastic, because if I ask her to do something, she'll just do it. And it'll work for the scene. And obviously, it's only enhancing the scene. So that's what I appreciate from actors, is them going above and beyond and saying, look, what do you need me to do? Obviously, within reason. And obviously, I'll bring my own voice to it. But yeah, that really helps. So well done. Well done, you. And you are fantastic as Guinevere. Jen, what about yourself? Then the same question. If you can remember it, Andy might actually have to say it again. It was about half an hour ago.
Jen, why do you love the camera department so much?
I wonder why you asked this question.
Yeah.
What was the question?
More about Andy, please.
No, more about Andy. We're done.
What I was thinking when everyone was talking was, I think when I'm on set, I do think I have to be careful to not listen to my negative thoughts. I'm sure this isn't the same for everyone, but where you could become insecure in what you're doing, or your mind suddenly wander going, oh, maybe that last take wasn't actually, I shouldn't have done that, or and it's important just to just listen to the good voices in your head, in terms of for yourself. And like the others have said, I mean, it was such a dream cast and crew to work with, and production. Everyone was it was such a joy to work with everyone. You felt supported, and that's all you can hope for in something like that, you know. It's really important to feel that support, and I absolutely did. It was amazing.
Great. So are either of you two going to take anything forward to your next film? How you like to work, or how something you learnt on the job? Anything at all?
So
nothing from the Arthur movie. We will take
nothing at all. I learned not to take anything forward.
Loads. I mean, I don't know where to begin, really. I think every character you do, and especially for me as the witch, and that kind of, like I was saying, like the kind of non-human sense of her potentially. I did as much research as I could and watched as many things as I could to give me kind of inspiration for it, and or what to do or what not to do. And that was useful. I mean, and I don't know, just lovely little bits and pieces you learn from new people you work with, you know, different actors who prepare in a totally different way to you, who might not have got their lines backwards, but are more spontaneous because of it. And you kind of go, okay, that works. Or, you know, they're not dead set on the same rhythm. They say something, they mix it up a bit. It's learning all sorts of things from everyone in cast and crew. You know, it's lovely.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you know what was great about you, and to be honest with most of the cast I know, is that you listened. So, and you were so receptive to any direction I gave you. You were sort of like, oh, okay, yeah. And you'd use that straight away in your performances. And that was just wonderful for me to watch and see how you'd take that on board and then bring it into what that scene was. And yeah, that was wonderful. I advise any actors to do that, is really listen to what's been said, and there's a reason for it, you know, hopefully.
That's such a joy though, because you do work with directors who won't give you anything, and you kind of get stuck in a groove of doing something that you thought you might do, but you don't get. So to have that specific direction is a real treat. So run with it. Yeah, totally.
Also, what you said, learning from other actors. I mean, I learned from Richard Short to always give 100%. Richard was, sometimes I sort of test the waters a bit in the first take to see where I can go with this. And Richard he would just be bam in there. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant, because you can always take it down a notch, but it's more difficult to take it up. And yeah, he was such a consummate professional. It was incredible to watch.
Yeah, and you can only learn from that, right? Everyone, and I think that was great for the Knights to see that as well, and sort of go, oh, he's delivering there from the off. Yeah. Okay, right, we all need to get up there. Yeah. And that was great, because there was no half-arsing from anyone from that moment on. It was just great. Yeah, so yeah, thank you for bringing that up. This has been a pleasure. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bless
really
you.
Cool.
Thank you, my loves.
Thanks, guys. Nice to see you again. See you in a pub at some point in 2021.
Sequel, mate, for the sequel.
Sequel. Bring back Modred. Modred was right. Big love. Ta-ra,
cheers, Joel.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Incredible there. Thank you so much, Stella, Jen, and Joel. They're amazing. That was really cool. Thank you. So, moving on to production design on a film like this. We've got Jamie Foote coming up, who is our production designer, which is so cool to get a production designer talking about how they do that. But Andy, I wanted to talk with you first, before we got there, about shooting a movie like this in a forest.
Yeah.
Because again, we're using natural light. Again, we're shooting in places that aren't necessarily easy to get to by foot. You know, waterfalls and 25-minute hikes. We've got caves, you know, that you have to go down steep slopes, and, you know, shooting with horses, all this kind of stuff that goes on with a film like this. Your experience of shooting in a forest with a camera, with a small team, talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, obviously very challenging. I mean, the major thing, obviously there's all the obvious stuff like rain and tripping over stuff and, you know, just safety, but like everyone was cool, so we were able to be really mindful of that. But the major thing that was hard was, obviously we didn't want to get generators and bring in a whole circus to light the forest up. And because we were going for a very naturalistic look in the rest of the movie, where we were using daylight and the interiors, it meant that if we did a night exterior, we couldn't do day for night, which is where you would shoot in the sun and then grade it to make it look like nighttime, because that's a very stylistic look. It's a very different style to shooting with natural light for real inside. So you suddenly get this mismatch of styles. So it meant if we shot at night, it had to actually be at night, which is very difficult if you're in a forest and there aren't any light sources. The moon isn't bright enough. So we had to use real fire, and we had a couple of little light panels and smaller LED units that we used then. But mainly it's all motivated by by the fire, which I think has given it a real nice quality. But there's things like fire torches will go out over a long take, so you have to stop and relight them, and that's something Jamie was involved with. So I'm sure he'll talk about all that.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole team just got stuck in there, and it was really nice. With Jamie's team, they'll be with the smoke machine, they'll bring in the flaming torches and bringing props in and all that sort of stuff, and giving the swords to the knights. Everything like that had to be managed and looked after. And it's really interesting on a film like this, when there's so much, when you think, oh, there's not that much, but you add up all the props and all the things, there's loads to think about and do. And it's a very often underappreciated job, and it's a very difficult job. People don't talk about it enough in filmmaking, and it's wonderful.
Do you remember Jamie running around with his top off during that night?
Yep. Burnt into my retinas.
That wasn't just for fun.
There was a scene between Lancelot and Guinevere in the forest, and we'd lit it with torches. It was at night, and it looked amazing. And it was a moment where we suddenly jumped a day later for a reveal. And this had to look magical. It had to look a magical forest. And we needed a lot of torches, a lot of candles, a lot of production design. And these torches, like Andy said, go out a lot. And the only way to light them at one point was with old rags. And Jamie got a load of old rags. And eventually these rags were running out. So he started ripping his T-shirt and lighting it. We were like, wow, that's amazing. And then between each take, he'd rip another bit of his T-shirt and light it. And then another bit and another bit. And eventually he had a crop top on. And before we knew it, he just had a necklace of a T-shirt. And we're like, if we don't get this now, he's going to be literally naked. It was incredible. It was an incredible achievement. That deserves an Oscar in itself.
Our production designer goes above and beyond for the production.
Totally agree. So let's get to him. Let's get to the man himself. Welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast, Jamie Foote. Enjoy our chat with him. Perfect. Jamie, it's amazing to have you join us on the podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Yeah. It's great seeing you guys again.
It really is. It doesn't seem that long ago that we were all manically running around trying to make castles look good and forests look good. And it must be really interesting for you because, you've worked on some big movies, Hobbs and Shaw and Spectre and all sorts of departments, from props to set directing and all sorts of stuff. What did you learn from doing Arthur and Merlin? What was it for you that was, really interesting, and why did you want to get involved?
Well, I wanted to get involved just because I love doing the job that I do. And King Arthur is a story that everyone's sort of grown up with since a child, and it's like, well, being given the opportunity, I sort of jumped at it. And that's really it. It was just sort of a love for making things up, or just making things happen and making it look good.
And the script was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you go about it when you get the script, talking about that then? What do you look for? What do you think, oh, okay, well, I've got to do that. I've got to get that. What is it that you set out to do? What's the first thing you do?
So the first thing I do is I'll obviously sit and read through the script at first just to see how I think it is. So I've got a really loud helicopter going by for some reason. And then I'll read through it again and break it down into its scenes, and then look at the specific items that are there. Having sort of a fondness for historical stuff anyway myself, I already have an idea of what there's going to be in backgrounds and what I need for, whether it be floor decoration or wall decoration or just general gumph. Horrible word, but it's just that generic stuff to be thrown around and make things look appealing.
Because you have empty spaces, especially in the castles, the bedroom scenes and the grand ball scenes and the wedding scenes, this all had to be dressed. obviously period specific. Which is, it's a lot of props, and obviously the candles and the lighting, which obviously helps the camera department. Where did you source all your props from?
So at first I looked in London, the prop stores, major prop stores in London, to see if they were available to hire out. But during the time constraints, they weren't. So I used Google Foo, and some very helpful members of our team based down in Cardiff pointed us to a Cardiff-based company who've just started out fresh. They've got tons and tons of props. They didn't even have anything categorized. They were that new. Like, everything was just piled on top of each other in these huge hangars in an airport, disused airport outside Cardiff. And essentially I was like a kid in a candy store, being able to pick what I wanted. And with them being so fresh and new, they were just like, look, just climb over things, get in there, pick out what you want. And they were just really, really helpful, really generous.
And that was from Dresd Prop Hire in Cardiff, right, Jamie? Yeah, DRESD Prop Hire.
And I'd recommend them like any time to anyone.
That's great.
What they've got.
Because that first day, for example, you had to make the which was Guinevere's bedroom, if you like, look really interesting. We always talked, and myself and Andy and yourself said, we want it to kind of look sparse, because they wouldn't have that much anyway, but we also didn't want it to look empty. There's a difference between sparse and empty, I suppose. And you built this amazing bed. I've actually just put a photo up on Instagram of how cool it looks, and some of the crew working in that space. And you delivered what was a really lovely bed with designs on it and little sort of cutouts and extra little touches to some places where the candles could go as well. Understanding the light in front of the fireplace, and we did discuss for quite a while when we were walking around the set, the castle beforehand, where stuff should go. So after you've spoken to a director like that, what's your next step? What do you do? Do you then go, right, okay, well, he or she wants this to that, so, and then you source it to fit that? And do you also think of your own stuff as well? What's the best way to do it?
I think of their own stuff as well, because everyone does have their own vision, which is unique to them and everything else. And you don't want to ruins other people's vision by going, no, that's not right. We'll just put that there and that. So you kind of have to play with it a bit. And when you put things in place, you go, that doesn't look right. If we have that up against the wall, it's gonna sort of lose a depth to this. It's gonna make it look very flat. So you've got to shift things around and just generally give things like a verticality. It's difficult to kind of explain, but for me, it's easier to put things where they are, and then start moving them around. Because then, when you move them around, you get a better picture, and it starts to break down. I've never been one to sort of draw things on paper beforehand, because I can never imagine something and then sketch it out. Because
obviously, you've done. You as a part of the production design team on many big films that Giles had mentioned earlier. You've done World War II. We actually did a World War II movie together last year, and you've done obviously King Arthur and many different historical action pieces. Because obviously you've studied this, and you know exactly what prop is right for which specific genre. When you have a director that says, "Well, I would like this," have you ever had to say, well, it doesn't actually work within that genre, so I'm going to suggest something else?
So it's suggesting something else, but also giving those options and being like, instead of saying, no, that's a rubbish idea, just say that's cool, but I've got this, and this, which would also look cool. So it's trying to provide more options for them to go, oh, actually, that one, A, might not look cool, B looks all right, C looks really good. So it's like what a friend of mine taught me is making sets with more options than directors can have. There's almost too much choice. Where if they go, right, well, what if I want to film in that corner? Okay, there's a little table there with a box on it.
Yeah, especially someone like me who will just do that last minute and go, I want to film in that corner now.
Never give too many options to a director.
No, please give more. Please.
But no. I think that's a great thing. If you give more options, then
No.
they in a small space.
Yes.
So if it's a 6 foot by 6 foot room, and you decorate 3 corners of that room, so that there's a lot more visual items that they can go. Oh, actually, I can do a close up on this cup of tea, or I can do a view out the window, or whatever. It's providing so many options that the director doesn't even think about anything else, and they go, oh, that, and then that, and then that, and then that, and then
Absolutely.
you're done.
I love that, because there was various times when I went, the camera's looking at, I need something to fit in that. And you went, well, there's this option or this option. Oh, brilliant. I'll take that option. And I love that when someone gives me options. There's nothing worse when they go, well, I've got this. And I go, anything else? They go, no. So it's so good. And I agree with you, Jamie, to have those options, because for me as a director, and for Andy as well, you're sort of going, well, great, thank you. That looks better. The light will look nicely on that. That's too shiny, whatever it is. But to have those options is really important. Really important. You had a great team as well. Let's talk about, you had James, Rona, and Matt were your main sort of people you had with you. How do you work with the team then? What's your process to have people working for you within that world?
So I make sure that the team that I work with, I know really well. And that then I can trust those people to have vision and have the same sort of mindset, where I can say to them, okay, I want this room. This room's going to be a bedroom. It's going to be the main feature. These are the props. If I leave you with this, then I'll come back. And and it's those people that I can trust, because they're people that. My team are always people that I've known for a long time. So
it's about thinking outside the box, I suppose, isn't it?
It's always about thinking outside the box. And I always try and pick people that think outside the box, because if you just, art department, especially the big features, it's very stringent. This is our design, this is what's built, and then it gets made to that spec. And essentially it's almost like a factory line, where you don't really get much play with what you might think looks good, because there's a designer who's got his idea, and then that's it. That's moved down to the people that are making it. Whereas on smaller features, you've got more leeway to think outside the box, and you've got sort of, I know if I tape this carpet to a wall, it will look like a tapestry,
which we did, and it did. So yeah.
So what you're saying, the difference between the big budget pictures and indie features is you're allowed more freedom.
Yeah.
How would you work with a DP? Obviously, I know because we've worked together, but for everyone else, what's your relationship like with DPs? How would you sort of go about setting the color palette and the look and that kind of stuff? What kind of conversations would you have? Projects?
The same with like working with a director. You're just providing more options. So and then also making suggestions like, well, actually, I don't think the light's quite good here, but if we put a white sheet or everything, it will brighten up a bit. Or it's again, we've all. Even if it's the director, the DOP, or even the costume department, or anyone else, it's suggesting more ideas that give more options for everyone to work with.
Yeah, it's all about working together. You're right. It's about having that communication, collaboration, and working together as a team. I love it. And Jamie, finally, before we let you go, is just any advice for up-and-coming props department or art department or art directors that you could give from your experience?
It's just to go with the flow and like let things flow naturally, but also give yourself more options. Never be too scared to like overbuy props, because you could go around a prop store and buy 3 wooden buckets or whatever, and then having those options available and having more means there's less stress on you to provide a scene or anything like that. It's all about almost overburdening yourself with props and colours and everything else. And don't be afraid to think outside the box and use local knowledge. So wherever you are filming, use the local builders trades, plumbers trades, anything else, because sometimes you can make things out of a bit of pipe and some black spray, and because all it will be is a shadow in the back of the shot, which will look like a sword hill, but it doesn't. It's not going to be that much in focus, so it doesn't need to be.
See, that's the talent of a production designer.
Yes, exactly.
You don't need to spend exorbitant amounts of money on things to make something look good, if it's just generic faff in the back.
I love it. Jamie Foote, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, guys. It was lovely speaking to you all.
That was the fantastic Jamie Foote there, chatting to us all about production design and art direction of a movie like Arthur and Merlin. So yeah, I hope you learned something from that. Our next guest will be moving into post, but before we get there, just wanting to touch on the sort of final bits of filming for you and what we sort of learnt and went through during that time.
I mean, like, it was a very compressed schedule, but it just felt good because sometimes when you're shooting with not a huge amount of time, you have to make compromises, and you sometimes walk away without being 100% happy with everything. But honestly, getting to the end of the shoot, I was just really proud of it. I think the team pulled together so hard and pushed so hard to get everything done and to get everything to the standard that it should be. It really elevated it, and it's a really nice, consistent, good film. And it's just being able to shoot those performances for me as a DP. That's such a privilege. Just working with Richard and Stella and Joel and all those lot, just giving it 100% and just only thinking about the film. It was great. I really enjoyed it. It was tough. It was tough getting rained on. It was, cold and wet and long hours, but oh my God, was it worth it?
It was.
Yeah.
I was going to ask a question actually, or more open it to a discussion about, we're talking about the trials and tribulations being in the rain, and sometimes horses don't always do what you ask them to do. Neither do actors actually sometimes, but no, I'm only joking. But
or producers.
Producers. Wow.
It's got that late now.
Yeah. So there was one quite high stress moment for me, just the one. And that was on the last day. So the opening of the movie is Lancelot and King Arthur riding across the shore, and they're racing on horseback.
And on horses.
And we started off the day in location 1, then we had lunch and moved to location 2 in the afternoon. And obviously when you do a unit move, these times are scheduled in throughout the day, and you only have a certain amount of time to get from one space to another because you only have a limited time in each location. Now, it's okay if you can say to the location, oh, do you mind if we have a little extra half an hour or hour because we've run late from the first location? A lot of them will give you some leeway. But on this particular afternoon, we couldn't actually ask the tide to stay out later for us because
we couldn't.
It's a tide.
Water does its thing.
Obviously, that was quite, stressful for us as a team because we had a certain amount of shots we needed to get done. We had to look after the health and safety of the animals as well as our actors. We had quad bikes. We had all sorts of things going on. And it's the opening of the film. This has to be spectacular. It has to tick the boxes for the audience members. And wow. I mean, you got it, guys. Well done. But I remember it being stressful.
Everyone by that point is stressful, and everyone's so tired because it's the last day and everyone's got that hype thing, we're finishing. But actually, the last day was really tough, and we wouldn't have scheduled it that way unless Tim and Richard had to cut their beards, because the idea was it was 8 years before. So they had to look younger, but we couldn't have scheduled that any other way than put it at the end. But therefore it meant we had these really big scenes in the cave with the witch coming and them on horseback and racing across the sands and the sea. And it was a lot to shoot, and everyone is right at the end of what they've got left to give. And it was really tough. It was, and it was amazing. But the whole experience was incredible. I think we'll come back to that as our wrap up and talk about our final thoughts on the movie. But I wanted to talk about post, because we're now moving into post, and we've got Oliver Parker, our wonderful editor, who also edited The Dare, by the way, in case you didn't know.
Here we go.
And it was really great to bring him onto this project. But post is a wonderful time for it's a scary and horrible time, but also a wonderful time, because then you can see a movie coming together. And the same for you, Andy, I suppose, in some way. You've just got a load of shots in your head and a load of things on a drive somewhere. And until they're put together, it's just a load of shots. And you don't know if it's going to work or piece together, and how the scenes from one scene to the next will work. And I'm always thinking about that when I shoot. How does Guinevere, we're in the castle, how do we now suddenly go to the forest outside? What's your connecting shot? And I think that's so important. People forget about that and they just go, oh, go close up to close up. No, you can't do that. You need your connecting shots. So I'm always thinking about that. So it's so nice, and usually never shoot those in order, to see it in the edit. So shall we talk about the edit? Shall we go and chat with Oliver Parker, our editor?
Yeah, great.
Well, it's the first time I've met him, because we're obviously doing this podcast on Zoom and Skype and Squadcast.
Which is amazing, isn't it? The first time you meet your editor of this movie is on Skype while doing this podcast. See, the podcast is useful for something. All right, this is our chat with Oliver Parker and us. Have fun. It's a delight to have Oliver Parker join us on the podcast. Hello, mate. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Thanks very much for having me on. It's very nice to be here.
I love it. That was like a proper chat show, wasn't it?
There you go.
It's very professional of you, Oliver.
This is a proper chat show.
This is a proper chat show. Yeah, someone said that once. But it's nice because I've talked about you on this podcast a lot, Ollie. Those people who know who are long fans of this podcast and listened a lot know that Oliver Parker's name's been mentioned, because not only did you edit The Debt, but we got you on to do Knights of Camelot amazingly well, Arthur and Merlin as well. So what was it like when I asked you to do it? Did you go, oh my God, no, not him again? Knowing that Andy was involved as well, he knew you were going to get amazing images.
Minimal footage.
Minimal footage.
Average.
No, it is very exciting to be asked to come on board. Obviously, having worked with you both and knowing that, yes, even a limited amount of time on a shoot, you know we're going to get really nice looking rushes and nice coverage and interesting coverage and clever coverage. And that's exactly what we got on this one.
Thank you. I mean, Andy will be over the moon with that clever footage.
This podcast is just like...
We're just all wanking each other
nice
off.
things about us all the time. It's embarrassing.
People daren't say ill because they know we'll come down. We're
so
like
powerful.
Chris Nolan.
Yeah.
You sat down? Okay, well, let's talk about editing a movie then, in terms of how you go about it, what you do when you get the rushes. Because you just off air, then you talked about when you first came on set on the first day to talk through with our lovely assembly editor, Alan, about what you wanted the process to be. In terms of you as an editor, what's the process of getting rushes? How do you put them in? What do you think about when you first start, editing?
I mean, for me, that first day is always really important, especially as I wasn't able to be on the shoot and to kind of cover the assembly stage, and I wasn't there to be on set. So for me, it was super important to make sure that Alan, who was sort of doing the assisting and syncing rushes and putting the project together, was at least working in a way that I knew was going to benefit the actual cut. And luckily, we worked out a workflow that I'm very familiar with. I like to be fairly meticulous about how the projects are set out and how the rushes are divided up, and the more time we spend at the top being organised, the less time we're looking and hunting for stuff later down the cut.
That's great advice. What's the best way to do that then? Like you say, is it you like to work in Premiere?
I work in Avid or Premiere, either or. I mean, they're both very similar in terms of how you might set them up. It's especially with this when it was just me and you through the cut, and we delivered the conform picture at the end. There was no sort of additional support. So knowing that, wanted to minimise the amount of time I had to spend doing the conform and all those bits at the end. So we just sort of set it up in a way that made sure that was limited, and all our time was spent refining the cut and working on the edit. What
do you feel is a sort of a good way to do that? Because you've made loads of things as a director as well as shot stuff, but as an editor, you've made quite a few feature films. What do you feel is the best process for directors out there and for DPs to be delivering footage to you? What's the thing that really you've learned over time? That you should really do this way, or is there not a specific way?
No, I mean, really, it's more to do with how it's put together when it arrives with a DIT or assistant, and it's how it's dealt with from that point on. And there are many ways that you can structure your workflow. How there are many ways different ways you can sync rushes, and they all have an implication on how you then deal with the footage at a later date. One of the I think the great things at the minute is being able to get LUTs from the DP on set, so that when you've got your rushes, you can apply that. When you create all your proxies, you can apply a LUT that's been designed by the DOP for that particular scene or that look, and you off the bounce you have a look that's right for the picture, rather than just applying generic looks. The closer you can get to how you envisage that scene looking earlier on, the better, really. It just really helps inform choices.
When you work so close with people, and this is really interesting, for that time, you're in each other's pockets constantly. Me and Andy lived together when we did King Arthur, and we're in the same hotel when we did The Dare, and me and Ollie spent all the time in the edit suite together. So you're spending at least 6 weeks in prep and then 6 weeks in the edit with Ollie. So you're together. So you do have that bond. And I think it's really important that with if you're a director, with your DP and your editor, you have that, because otherwise you could be fighting against each other. And I think you don't want that to happen. What's the best way to avoid that, Ollie, do you think, in your mind? Because if a director does say, nah, I don't want it that way or this way, what can you do to stop that?
I mean, that's always the hard thing. That the working relationship is the most important thing, and ultimately I'm there to serve the director's vision. That is, that's my job, and I think you've got to build that working relationship so there's a level of trust between both sides. So that if I feel that one way isn't working, that there's the sort of the freedom to go off and explore another route or another way. But there's always, you're always coming back to that final vision. It's got to serve the story and it's got to serve the director's vision, and that's sort of that's the kind of the top of the tree, really, and everything you try is to help push that in that direction.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah man. Yeah.
No, Andy, you got a question there? You're just going to go, yeah, man.
The thing is, right? No, I mean,
I've got a question.
Oh, wait, maybe I've got one too.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to say, I mean, like, I could jump in and be like, well, the thing is, I just completely agree with what Ollie's saying. I'm just like, yeah, that's probably why we all work together really well, because we do have that same idea about, the story is the most important thing, and we need to show the performances, and, the director's in charge of the ship, and we're just really there. As long as the trust is there between us, we'll all trust each other to suggest things.
Well, let's talk about working with directors for you then, Ollie, when you receive stuff through, because there's a lot of directors who listen to this podcast, and I think working with editors is really important. What challenges do you have sometimes, or what's your process? What do you like to do that you can get across your vision? Because what I loved that you did for me is you constantly came up with new ideas or new themes or new way to get around a scene that might have a problem when you didn't have enough coverage. You'd go, well, we could do this. And I loved it because you were also creating, you were coming up with stuff. What advice, like say, to work with directors could you give, or what's really useful for other editors out there?
Well, it's a tricky one because each project is completely unique in that sense, and it's just the process of working through and refining in each stage. The early stages is just knowing your material, making good notes, and understanding where you might have a variation in performance, or you might, you went and shot loads of stuff that wasn't scripted when you went and had time, and you had these like cool shots of Modred sneaky having a look through a window, and there's stuff on the moors, which ended up being really useful in the cut. We were able to kind of make quite dynamic sequences and scenes that suddenly meant something new and different. And so it's really understanding material and having the freedom to experiment and to play around with. And a lot of that stuff just, there's no one quick way for it to work, but it's everything you do has got to serve the story. And that's your sort of the key, the baseline is what that character's saying there necessary. And if it isn't, does it mean more without them saying that line? Or do you play it off a reaction? Is it more important that you're seeing the reaction to that scene? So it's decision making that serves the story, and that's sort of the.
And how do you choose that then? How do you choose when to stay on a close up or go to a reaction in your mind because you did a lot of work, and then I'd come and have a look at what you've done, if you see what I mean, and then we'd tweak together and play. But what is it that makes you choose to do it that way? Is it just your own sort of vision and I think imagination?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think you find the point in the scene that scene is about, and it might not be a line, it might be a line, it might be a reaction, and you sort of work out at what angle the important part of that scene plays best on, where you get the kind of the sense that of an emotional beat or whatever it is, and then you sort of work back from there, and you work out, how do I get to that moment? How do I give that moment its sort of maximum gravitas in the scene? And you sort of plot your way through that way. Does a scene, do you play a scene out on a single shot? Do you slowly work your way into something and then contrast that with a series of quick cuts? There's loads of different ways to try and accentuate that moment, but it's just plotting your way, understanding how that process and how that system works for the story.
There was one really lovely moment where I think you called me up and you said, Giles, I want you to see something, because I think there's something missing. And I said, what do you mean? And you said, well, I know how you would shoot this. I know how you and Andy would shoot this. And it feels like there's something missing. And you showed me. I went, yeah, there's no two-shot coming across and being the wide. And it was so nuts, because then we had to find it in the rushes somewhere. It was just mislabeled. But the fact you knew me well enough and Andy well enough that we would have done that, you'd have gone, well, how Giles shoots and likes to set up shots is this, and he probably would have done this. And because it wasn't there, you went, oh, well, there must be something missing. And I loved it. You called me up and went, yeah, we'd shot that for sure. And you found it and we put it in. And it was like, that was great.
Yeah, these shots, occasionally, they just slip through the net. And, you know they must be there. And invariably they are just somewhere. And they get dug out.
This reiterates the fact that a couple of our actors were talking about trust, building the relationships and working with people that you trust. Obviously, as Giles, trust yourself, Ollie, and you trust the way Andy and Giles would get all the correct shots to make sure the story makes sense. It really kind of proves, especially what the actors had said previous on the podcast. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing from my perspective is that we have the benefit of being able to see the rushes in the confines of a frame and not have any of the knowledge of how it's got on screen. And I think that's one thing as an editor, you've just got to be sensitive and have an appreciation of what it takes to get that shot on screen with everything from script stage to pre-production and all of the kind of the blood, sweat and tears that happen to get that on screen. And that's sort of a big thing just to sort of understand. And the brutality of it as well, because there was, I think, a few times on the Dare and certainly on Arthur, is that you just go, oh, I don't think we should do this scene, or let's not, this scene doesn't push the story along, let's just either take it out or move it to another stage. And I'd be like, oh, but that day was horrendous and it was so hard and the performance is amazing, but actually it doesn't serve the story. And like I say, me, Andy and Lucinda were there in the trenches understanding it, and you go, well, I don't care, it's irrelevant. And that's what's lovely about having an editor who just goes, well, I'm seeing the story, right? I mean, that must be something you look at. I mean, we did a lot of repositioning of scenes in the early first 20 minutes. With the intercutting backwards and forwards from Modred to Arthur, and actually all the way through the cut, it worked nicely with the intercut. And then towards the end of the cut, we just decided to put the Arthur scenes together a little bit more at the start, and put the Modred scenes together, and just let them play out a bit. And suddenly, while it worked before, suddenly now you were seeing that. You had more of an appreciation of Arthur's state of mind, and you sat with him for a bit longer. You then saw the kind of evil menace in Modred, and you saw the build of that work. And then the intercut starts working in a much more natural place when the tension and the pace starts ramping up through those sequences. So that's, all these little things really can have such a dramatic effect on how the story gets told.
Yeah. We changed so much. That was really interesting. I'd forgotten about that how it was in the script, and just to move those things around when you're watching it in the edit makes such a difference. It really does. It worked the other way around, but this is a better way of telling the story. Yeah. It's amazing how you can constantly still be working on a movie up until that, literally as you deliver. You're still doing final tweaks.
I remember we restructured a few scenes when, I don't know how spoilery this should be or not.
You say it and I always cut it out.
Okay, cool. So the scenes where... so I remember moving the scenes where Modred finds the locket. And actually we repositioned that to then motivate his capture, the capture of Lancelot, whereas beforehand that was never scripted that way. And it's just nice connecting those dots that weren't necessarily connected beforehand. And just kind of helping to push those story beats along, really.
Yeah. Totally, and trying to make those scenes work. was really interesting, wasn't it? When you go, right, well, you could cut from that to then suddenly outside, but hang on, what was their thought process before that? How do these characters still make sense if you move all the scenes around? But it does, and we did it on the day massively. I mean, we chopped, changed, cut, moved the whole thing around constantly, and that was tricky because you had different periods of time. So there's even those when you move one thing, everything else changes down the timeline. So yes. Any bits of advice for editors out there or up and coming filmmakers who edit their own stuff of what you've learned along the way? Yeah, I mean, for me, the main thing is being super, super organised on the outset, and it will just make things much easier to work through. The deeper you get into the cut, I think for me, I really like working with sound. Sound for me is a super important thing from early on in the cut. I think we did a lot of sound work, and the more I can get my ideas and our ideas into the cut and transferred through to the sound department, the more they have to go on. It just sort of takes out that initial having to then chat all that stuff through the sound department. So we did work on the Excalibur scene. I don't know if you remember, we did loads of sound design on that Excalibur scene because actually with all the production sound, it just didn't have the right atmosphere. So we refolied all the footsteps through the water. We put in new waterfall sounds. We put in breathing sounds, and so we could really balance the design of that scene out and give it the sort of the impact it needed, which is just kind of very weird and spooky kind of feel. So it made a huge difference, didn't it? Because I was ending up voicing stuff, you'd voice stuff, and breathing and footsteps, and suddenly, I think actually a few of them are still in the movie. I think quite a lot of them because they worked, just us a lot doing it, but it did. And I remember because you've got that lovely relationship with the cast as well. I could ring them up or text them and say, "Listen, would you do a few breaths down the phone for me? I'm missing a gap." And there's nothing worse when you're sending it to your exec producers or producers to Lucinda and Jeet, and it jars you when there's a jump and there's no sound. So we'd just put something in. I remember voicing a load of the characters. Yeah. There was just, I think at one point there was my voice in an early trailer, because Americans didn't notice. But I think the fact you've got the ability to do that and constantly thinking outside the box is so important. Agreed. Definitely.
Obviously, action is quite a big part of this film. How did you go about editing all the action that we shot together into a coherent thing?
I think that was one of the things that I was most concerned about in terms of knowing how much time you guys had to shoot on set. And I think the main horse stuff was, 2 days? I think in the end.
Something like that, yeah. 3 in total, but I think we had 1 day for the main big battle at the end. So yes, and everything was in 1 day.
Reading the kind of the number of sort of setups you had throughout the script, and there was a slight nervousness as to how that was going to transfer in terms of coverage. But actually, what was great is that start with the performances are brilliant, but also when you start slotting each of the individual sequences together, they started really singing. But actually, when you start intercutting those sequences, and me and you spent loads of time with this, Giles, didn't we? We had each sequence cut and then working out when to come in and out of each sequence to feel like the battle was still going on in the background. And that was kind of the hardest part of it. And that was the bit that made it feel kind of brutal and like it was a big event, is where to come in and out, and can you start using the same shot but from another angle, and just reusing shots and working your way through the hall.
It's amazing how you work miracles, and it's amazing how it can come across, something like, oh God, we didn't get a shot of Modred at the end sort of leaving, and you were like, well, we've got it in a wide and we've got away with it. No one's mentioned it. No one notices. But yet for me, I'm going, there's no shot of Modred leaving, but no one minds. And I think it's things like that as filmmakers we can get bogged down in, but no one else really notices. As long as the story's being told, as long as you've got your main people there doing the main things they're supposed to be doing, you totally get away with it. Totally get away with it, as long as it's not too big. Ollie, you're a star. I'm sure we'll be working on another movie soon together. I'm sure.
Good. Look forward to it. Yeah.
For now, though, thanks, buddy.
Nice one.
Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, Ollie. Nice to meet you.
So there we have it. That was Oliver Parker. He's the wonderful editor of Knights of Camelot. Do give him some love on Twitter, because editors often get overlooked. So give him some love. He worked miracles with me. We didn't talk about that enough, but honestly, it was a joy to work with him. Someone who understands your vision, but also is really clever and thinks outside the box, and that's what Oliver brought to it. I'd highly recommend working with him if you can afford him, if he wants to work with you. So finally, our final guest we're going on to now. Lucinda, would you like to introduce the final guest? Because you're probably closer to him than most people.
Oh, how funny. Of course I am. Yes. So for those of you that don't know, I run film production company Picture Perfect along with my husband, Jeet Thakrar, and we started together in 2015 and it's now 2020 and we have made over 9 full-length feature films, which has been hard work, but great. And, we've got a great relationship as business partners. And it just works because we bring different things to the team, and it's really nice to work with your husband and somebody I respect as well. So, let's have a chat with my gorgeous husband and my producing partner, Mr. Jeet Thakrar.
So, Jeet, are you there? Hello?
I'm here. Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
It's really weird saying hello to my husband.
Yes, who is literally upstairs.
I'm upstairs in the studio, guys. I'm doing a conversion of the Arthur film as we speak for our virtual screening.
Amazing. Wow. That's so cool.
And it's maxing out my CPU on my computer.
I imagine it is. Okay, which means it's going to look really nice, which is really cool. I love that. How, obviously we want to get into the post side and actually how you deliver a film between Lucinda and Jeet and how you do it. But first of all, I wanted to ask you about how you work together as a husband and wife team, because you both produce this movie as well as Robin Hood, The Rebellion and the Hooligan movies and so many other feature films. I thought it'd be really interesting for people to know the process of a husband and wife team working together who are both producers.
I couldn't think of a better way to work. You know, someone's got your back. Someone can feel free to criticize you. It's all about, working towards betterment in a career choice or in life in general. So it's super productive and for the time being, it's working really well.
For the time being.
Oh, wait. Wait, domestic happening.
You pulled me up. Yeah, okay.
Because it's all about story, right? It's all about getting the best film it can be. So you two will do whatever you can to make that happen. And that's very evident. That comes across well. Is there anything you've learned to help filmmakers out there, producers out there, that over the time of what works well? And again, that's a huge question because you could answer that in so many different ways on so many different departments. But in terms of what makes a good producer and what makes a good team, production team, what would you say that was, Jeet?
I think a massive asset you can have when working within sort of coming from a producing capacity is to be a great listener. At the end of the day, you may have your fingers in several pies. If you're working in sort of the independent scene, you may have to be helping the camera department. You may have to be helping somebody do some catering. You may have to be holding a boom one day, whatever it may be. From a producing point of view, it's great to be a member of the team. A lot of the time, producers have this kind of stigma about someone you can't approach or somebody who's holding purse strings and things like that. But if you give time to listen to people and work with people as a member of the team and show them that you're a member of the team, then I think that's an invaluable asset.
You want to be approachable as well, don't you? As producers, we want to be approachable, and we want people to know that we will go in the trenches with the team as well. We're not producers that will sit behind Video Village and not get involved. We want to be in there with everybody and make sure that we can help you at any hurdle that you come across. And I think, with that, the team will give you respect because you're on everyone's side.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump straight into then delivering a movie like this. And you two have delivered movies in the past. What was the difference with something like Arthur and Merlin? And what's the post strategy? What can people expect? What can filmmakers expect? Because no one really talks about this side of delivering a movie. From your side, Jeet, what should people expect?
So to start with what you asked first, so the difference with Arthur compared to what we've had to deal with before, it was a much bigger post-production team and a closer kind of scenario to a higher budget film. So a fuller team of people working. So, one of the examples I always give is my background in post-production sound. In sort of the independent world, you tend to have a sound designer and then maybe a Foley editor. And the sound designer will take on a lot of the track lay, probably the mix, and maybe have a few elements from an FX editor or a Foley editor, which is a great help because those are specific roles, on their own. So, yeah, it's usually one person doing what a team of people should be doing. And it's always important to remember that because that plays its own part in sticking to a very tight schedule. It was an absolute pleasure to have a fuller team working. It was a pleasure to have an on-set editor. That was
totally,
It almost felt like a luxury, whereas really it's a convention. It's if you're making films following the rules, it's something that you really need to be having on set, so you have rushes, not just rushes, but edited scenes to look back at.
So after someone like Ollie Parker, who edited this, delivers the movie to you, what's the process then for you? Will you then send that to the sound mix? I'm obviously, we work together, I know, but it's really good to tell our audience what the process is so that they know. When does it go to the grader, for instance? When does it go to the VFX team?
Yeah, of course. So obviously Ollie had taken the material from the assembly editor. So there is some structure there already. Ollie then passes that on to the sound department. Now that could happen, and it should really happen at an early stage. Once upon a time, people used to send reels, through to the sound, to the composer, to the sound editor. Obviously that would work when you've got time for that type of workload to sort of, to happen. You'd have plates being sent to VFX, etc., etc. So people are working together at the same time, and talking while they are working. So ideas are being passed along the chain everywhere, and everyone's on the same page. So with Arthur, Ollie had been talking to Dave Aston, who was the sound designer, track layer and mixer. And obviously you'd had several conversations with him about style. And Ollie delivered what was known as an OMF, which is a snapshot of the edit timeline. That's then imported into the audio timeline, and whoever's dealing with the audio will then continue with that. And while that's happening, they should be talking to the composer. So working, sending temp files to each other. Obviously the composer, very important to be working with editor and yourself. Throwing you some ideas and some temp tracks and things. So we're building that picture of the film at every stage. And then VFX, same kind of thing. We learnt this time round, because we've not really had to deal with VFX with our previous films, maybe cleaning shots, so
removing a bit or taking out a drain pipe or whatever, or
absolutely,
a dog in the background,
or there's Lucinda, the producer, hanging around in the background.
Just a coffee cup. Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
Thank you, Lucinda.
Listen, I'm a producer that likes to be on set. I do apologise.
Yes. Yeah.
No,
wrong side of the camera. But obviously, so we've had to deal with cleaning, and this time we were building castles. We were building effects for Merlin, and obviously the input had come from Andy, yourself, and Oliver. And the earlier that process can start, the better. I spoke to Rhys Sanders, who took on the role. Rhys was very clear about trying to get as much material from the editor as early as possible, so he could, start working with his team, start building and sending back to Giles, and getting some feedback. Giles, because you want a specific type of castle, or you want
absolutely.
You want some objectivity as well.
Of course you do. And it's difficult for a VFX team to build, because we're still editing. And we had a deadline for this movie and we hit it, and we brilliantly did that. It was great on time and on budget. But I think what at the VFX team we're doing, we're sending an edit, but then me and Ollie would look at it again and go, we want to change that. That doesn't help the VFX team because they've already started to layer it up. So you've got to have those conversations really early, that these almost edit those bits first that you know are going to have VFX in, so you can get the VFX team working. So you've edited it in the right way. So if things do change, hopefully your VFX team won't mind too much. I mean, I would. So you've got to really be on top of that. But it's really just knowing and talking to your team, right?
Absolutely. And something else I've learnt from the Arthur process is, let's open the VFX conversations at a very early stage. At an early stage, that person might request some illustration, some concept art, which would obviously be a collaboration between yourself and an artist. And that way you've got some decent ideas, because Giles wants a particular type of castle, but you don't want the VFX artists delivering the Disney castle, for example.
So true. So from the early off, I was getting color palettes, and I was talking with Andy about that, and I was talking with costume about that, and I was talking with VFX about that. Everyone was on the same vision, and I made the vision pack, and we made the mood reel to look, so people knew the style and the look. And then it's about playing with that, and obviously people want to put their own impressions on that and put their own tone and their own feel to it, as long as it's within that world. And I love that. And at the same time, the composer is starting to do bits and pieces, right? And we had the fantastic Nick Samuel doing stuff. It was such a delight to have him. And then, we were working up to the last minute to get bits, because things change, edits change, and then suddenly you've got to change the score, and it's really difficult. So in the case of delivery process, then we know we've got a deadline, but we've got to hit that. So you're waiting to see stuff. What processes you as the producers, both of you, are you staying on top of during that time?
So yes, there is a post-production schedule in place, and we try to stick to that as closely as we can. And there are review points during that process. So the film is delivered, then there might be a break of a week or a weekend, depending on how much time we physically have, where the people who've been sitting creatively in front of a screen can take a step back, take a breather. Others who are involved closely in the process can take a look at the film as it stands, and give some feedback. And it's again, it's a bit of a broken record scenario at the moment, but it's about talking to each other. It's about talking about something somebody may not have spotted if they're sitting 9 hours a day in front of the screen. And
communication. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes from performances all the way through to a bit of guttering that needs removing, or whatever it might be.
It's a whole amazing process, isn't it, filmmaking?
For sure.
It just, the whole understanding of what goes into making a film is huge. There's so much. You can't explain that in a few lines. You don't, I develop an idea and then we start thinking about colour palette and all that. It's massive, let alone talking about money and talking about
unless you're in it, you don't understand the process.
But also, it's all well and good being able to talk about it, but to do the process justice, you need a panel, which is why this is what you're doing is so great. Because you're speaking to everybody and they can give you their expertise and their individual experience, which won't be the same as my individual experience or expertise. It's a daunting process delivering a film, Giles, as you know.
It's a daunting process making a film. Yeah, it's just the whole thing's daunting and scary. And then you get to giving it out to the world. I mean, obviously I'm jumping forward a little bit, but suddenly you're releasing the movie and anyone who's from any country in the world can just go, that was a piece of crap. And write that online and kill you with something. And it doesn't matter how much hard work and effort you put in. And you don't think about the great reviews. Those ones are all just like, well, they must be a friend of someone. Yeah. But it's funny, isn't it? All the effort that goes into it and people just dismiss it,
It's high stress from development all the way through to delivery and release. It really is. Yeah. But we talk about this, it's a difficult process, it's high stress, but it's positive stress as well. Because of the enjoyment and the love and the passion that we have, for what we do as individuals, but also for the project that we've all signed up to.
Yes.
I feel it's positive stress. Maybe not all the time. Maybe 99%.
But we love it. That's the thing.
We love it, and that's what it comes down to.
Jess and Stu talked about. Yeah, absolutely.
I also want to say for filmmakers who are listening, one of the major things about post-production is workflow. One of the most important things is a very clear, defined workflow. I think at any end of any tier of this industry, people who are involved in post-production will tell you that, you know, a solid workflow will mean a smooth delivery. And if there is, even if there's one thing that needs to be ironed out, it really should be to make sure that everybody is on the same page, because people are delivering, you know, files that are half completed, and labeling those files. And sometimes there might be a folder full of 50 files that are all labeled differently, dated differently, and you know, everybody will have a version of that, and everybody needs to be on the same page. So workflow is so important, just to make sure, as on set syncing is, for example, you know, making sure that you know, picture and audio is syncing correctly.
Because we had to finish this movie in lockdown as well, you know, right at the end, we had to be sending files backwards and forwards when we couldn't see each other. So I couldn't sit in the grade with Dan Moran. I couldn't sit in Nick's composing room. I think the one of the last days I did was with Nick, and then after that he had to deliver without. And that was really interesting for us to deliver a movie in lockdown as well, to do those final bits and deliver on time in lockdown was really interesting.
Can I ask a question about colour?
Sure.
So obviously, Giles and yourself had a very clear idea, which Lucinda and I were that conversation we were party to all the way along the process.
Of course, yeah.
And you achieved that. In my opinion, it was you know, you far exceeded what I thought was going to happen. What I was going to see, and yeah, you know, and those early mood boards, Giles, they were. I was looking at those, going, wow, you know, if we can achieve that, then of course we can. You know, in gloomy Wales, that shouldn't be too difficult. But you know what I mean. There are challenges along the way. But when you got to the stage of speaking and working with Dan, how much alteration needed to be made from the raw footage? How much were you able to play in camera? And what did you need to do to achieve some of the mood, the look through that colouring process with Dan?
Yeah, I mean, the ideal thing is Giles will test this as well. The more you can do in camera, the more real something is going to be, and the more natural it will look. So we did a lot of stuff in camera with the lens choice and the filtration, and just things like the color balance and things in the camera. So we had a lookup table in the camera, which is like well, you'll know this, but for some of the audience members, it's a series of alterations, contrast and tone and saturation you put onto the footage. So when you send it away to the edit, there'll be kind of a fairly bland raw image out the camera, and then these series of alterations that you can put on top of it that makes it into the image you intended. And it means you can do a kind of a grade on set that goes out, and then that continues all the way through to the colorist. But then if you've gone a little far on set, or if things aren't quite far enough, you can give the colorist an idea of what you want from doing that, but you haven't taken away any of those choices from them. So yeah, we sort of gave Dan the lookup table, and then he was able to work with that, but he could build on it and be more subtle with it, and also bring some of his own aesthetic into it as well, which I think always makes things better, right? You know, the more talented people you can get cooking something,
totally. Well, it that sounds like it's a process where you've kind of got two. You've almost got a bonus there. You've got the skill of the colorist, but you've also got him finessing things that you've created on set in camera.
Definitely.
So yeah,
and there's things, it's a specialized job. There's things that a colorist will understand that I won't, and they'll say, yeah, but I can do this, or I can lift this, and suddenly the image will pop, and you go, great, yeah, there was something wrong with that image that I didn't see, but they know exactly what it is because they're so used to looking at it.
Yes,
I'm laughing.
It's so valuable.
I'm laughing because Jeet has now turned into the host.
Yeah, sorry, come on about me.
Oh no, sorry.
I'm happiest.
But it's awesome. It's awesome. It's
awesome. It's 4 hours into this now. I'm like, yeah, please ask questions. Go for it.
It's brilliant. And actually, it's quite nice. Obviously, Jeet and I talk about this all the time, but it's quite nice to hear us talking with the team about this, because it's Jeet and I, in a box, if you like, or in the house,
in the bubble,
just throwing it back to each other. But for us to actually sit like this and have a conversation it's great, because we're working so fast and we work with the team. We never get a chance to go through the process and chat amongst ourselves as relaxed as we are.
And also, coming back to what you were saying, Giles, how has it differed? this is the first time I've been able to speak to a DP and say, how was it working with the colorist? Because previously that's been done by one person, and although that person we've been in full conversation with, it's like I said, it's a different dynamic, and it's a absolute pleasure to be able to say, to get Andy's feedback on that and to speak to Dan. And I was in contact with Dan just before delivery. In fact, Dan and I were sort of sweating over the last 24 hours or so. We all were. We all were,
but you were the guys who were actually delivering it. You were the ones who were actually pressing send.
The physical.
It's like that physical version. And do you send that on a? How does it work then? You send that on a hard drive to the distributors, to the execs, and then from there, do they then? Just so everyone knows. I mean, we all understand, but it's really nice to sort of explain this.
Yes,
you're sending it to execs, distributors, you're sending and it then to what happens?
So, in terms of sending it to an executive producer, that would usually be an online link. So they've got their own master version of that, which they can share in however many board meetings to get us some more money. But otherwise, if it needs to go to the lab, which is where all the tests are done on the color, the picture, the audio,
the QC, all that sort of stuff,
of course. So it has to go through this whole other process once it's out of our hands, and that needs to be done, usually on a hard drive, because the files that we're sending tend to be in the hundreds of gigabytes.
They're massive.
They are.
They are. Yeah. Well, let's talk about QC real quick, because so what it is for people so they understand. Basically means quality control. And then you have to go through another round of insurance to make sure there's nothing in the movie that could be degrading or insulting to anyone else, or could have someone's name in it. You mentioned David Beckham or something, and you're not allowed to do that. So that's the process that happens next, right?
Yes, so you'd hope that from an early stage, a producer might flag up anything defamatory or anything that's crossing the line on copyright or anything like that. But I've lost my train of thought.
QC and delivering at the end. Yeah.
So yes, of course, you're handing over to a lab essentially. So there's a technician who will take all of the files, all of the audio files, several stems. So it's usually like a 200 gig video file, and accompanying audio files which reach up to 100 gig. And they will check the picture, Andy, for the right color blacks.
Yeah.
Video levels. Et cetera. Yes, of course.
Yeah. Compression, missing frames.
Yeah. All sorts of things that can cause havoc, and that might be missed, and then the audio is checked for pops, cracks, that gunshot was too loud, or hang on, that's seems out of place, and you then have to explain or correct, and obviously following that there's a whole, like you mentioned, a whole insurance process to make sure that you're not crossing any lines, and that itself is it's quite a lengthy process. It involves solicitors, of course. It involves people who are experienced in media law, and
it costs. It costs money as well. It's not free,
and it costs. It does. It's
got to be part of your budget, right? Yes.
You must try and it can be an oversight for people, because obviously once you get to a distribution stage, before you get to a distribution stage, you're not really thinking about these things. Your mind is ticking with creative ideas and the wonders of making the film.
Of course.
And then you get to the other end, and it's like people saying to you, "Hang on, you've got a Quality Street can in the back." Oh well, that's and we had it with our first film. We shot in somebody's shed, and their dad happened to have a Quality Street tin, on the top shelf with screws and nails and other things in. But
usual thing people put in there.
But we were pulled up, and we had to get around that, because obviously you don't want the chocolate mafia on your case.
Definitely not. Who wants that? Yeah. They're horrible. Oh god, sticky. So it's true. So there's so many things you overcome. We could go on so long and talking about ins and outs of all that. I'll do a separate podcast all about, I think, post-production workflow. But this whole thing has been amazing. It's been really cool to talk to the team again and really go in depth about everything. Jeet, any final advice, any bit of advice for someone who's made a film, is about to go through post, or something they should know before they start making a film?
Yeah, just be very clear with each other and treat it as you would production, as be as strict as you would, and good luck.
Amazing. Jeet, thank you so much for chatting to us. It's
guys.
been a real insight and amazing as well. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah, that was the lovely Jeet Thakrar, or Thakrar. What do you want to...
Do you know what? It's
the
quite
pronunciation
of
people's
a hard
names.
one to pronounce, yes.
Well, I think it's a lot harder than Alderson, but yet in some of the reviews I've got Anderson. So, hey, I'm just saying, I've had it in movies all my life when I was an actor, and you go watch the movie in the cinema and then it says Anderson. It kills you. Like Andrew Rodger, yours name gets spelt wrong all the time.
It's misspelt more often than more often than spelt right. Yeah, it's part of life, isn't it?
Is it correct on the credits?
We just hope so.
Are you on the credits?
You shouldn't be.
I hope not.
I think we tried to take you off.
Yeah, I tried to take myself off. Yeah.
Wow.
Right. This has been so much fun. This has been incredible. For those who've stuck around for this amazing bumper edition of How to Make a Film, Arthur Merlin Knights of Camelot, thank you. So let's have some final thoughts then to wrap up this whole extravaganza. How's the whole experience for you, Andy, as the DP of a movie like this? Now you've made a historical action movie and one that you're very proud of, and I loved working with you on it, and I think I really enjoyed our time making this as a team, and we are very much a team when we make a movie like this. What was your experience of the whole thing?
It was great. I do another one. I've been on quite a few big sets of big historical action movies in other roles, so it was nice to get the chance to do one myself, and with the pair of you, that's been an ideal situation, I would say. Yeah.
So what about some tips for DPs out there to working on something like this? What have you learned from this taking forward to your next film? That's what I usually ask my guests, so I'm asking you.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Every project you learn something on. I definitely learned a lot on this. The camera team I hadn't worked with before, and for me that's such an important thing. You're working with these guys all the time. It reminded me how important it was to, because often I work with the same people, same guys and girls in the camera team, who are amazing. And in this situation, everyone was on other projects, so I was with a completely new camera team. But they were amazing, and it reminded me how important it is to trust people and to let them do their work. And then if they're good people and they're good at their jobs, they'll reward you 100-fold. And also how much you can get away with natural light. If you're planning your action around the available light, you can actually get away with a lot. And oh my God, there's some bright candles now that you can get. There's triple wick candles. Oof.
They're
really
amazing. I learned that on Robin Hood, actually, the production designer Julian Luxton. He said, it's double wick and triple wick. And it just blew my mind. I was like,
so
of
bright.
course. Because the flame is like that, isn't it?
It's like 10 candles. And you get to be like, oh yeah, I lit the whole thing with candles. I'm very good at my job. And it's like, these candles are really bright, so yeah.
Yeah, I think anything like that really adds to production value. And moving forward, now we can have triple wick on the next one as well, which I think will be a delight. For me, I've really enjoyed this experience. I've learnt so much. I've taken a lot in. Know I can improve. All these things that you do, you go, okay, well, I did that right. I did that wrong. Next time I can do that. I can do that. And you can only every experience make you better and make you a better director, make you a better filmmaker. And there's so much I learned from this, and looking forward to taking that forward into the next movie for sure. And I just hope, like Andy said, I hope everyone is proud of it. And I remember standing up and doing the speech at the very beginning of filming on the first day of principal photography and saying, look, I want everyone to work hard and so they're proud of the movie. You've put so much heart and effort into this that you're proud. And I think everyone is, and I really hope so, because I know I am. I'm proud of everyone who worked on it, and I hope everyone likes it for what it is and goes, okay, cool. Well done. And you just never know. You never know the reaction, do you?
You're going to have people like it, people dislike it. It's subjective, isn't it? It's personal. It's just personal taste. And
totally is.
We've obviously tried to deliver something that we are proud of. We hope audience members enjoy it for what it is. Whether there's any mistakes in there, I doubt there is, because we had a top-notch team. But there may be things that we haven't spotted because you're in it. A bit like, there's a car in the background of Lord of the Rings, so things happen.
Totally, it happens. So no, yeah, I think it's a movie, and we've done it, and it's out there, and that's a miracle in itself. The fact that a movie gets out, gets released, and here's one now you can watch.
If I give you one bit of advice, it's to, if someone hires you for a job, like as a DP especially, or a director, go and do the things that you think are right on it. If you think it should look a certain way, and that's what everyone's agreed on, then that's how you should shoot it. You should never think, I should be making it look like this other film, or I should be doing this other thing. Like, just trust your own intuitions, because that's the real reason you've been brought on as an artistic advisor, is to make those choices. So just to do that. And that's something I've only really recently kind of like allowed myself to be. And I hope we've done it with this film. It's stylistically quite strong, and it wouldn't be if I'd second guessed myself, I think.
That comes with experience as well, though, doesn't it, Andrew?
For sure. Of course, yeah, and there's still a load more mistakes I've got to make. But yeah, I think that's something I've learned only fairly recently. Yeah.
I think we have to learn from everything we do and get better. That's what we have to do. Look, this has been amazing. Thank you, everyone.
It's been a journey in itself, hasn't it?
This has been a journey.
Yeah.
This has been a reminiscing journey. You normally don't get to do this, do you? You just get to, the movie's out. But the fact that we've got to connect with everyone again, and because we're not having a premiere because of COVID, it's really nice to connect in some way and talk about this in detail and go, oh, God, yeah, that did happen. Oh, God, that happened. And we actually did well. Because you forget. It's so easy to forget when making a movie.
It's been interesting to hear everyone else's perspective on it as well, because obviously you have your own journey and your own experience, but hearing from everyone else has been
fascinating, hasn't it? Yeah. The stuff that you didn't know was going on when we were doing our stuff. For sure. And there was so much going on. I loved it. Okay, so you can follow me at Giles Alderson. You can follow the podcast at Filmmakers Pod. Andy, where can people follow you?
Teletext page 721. And
yeah, that's still going. You've got a pager, right?
CFAX now, isn't it? You've got a pager.
You can fax Andy on.
And also on Instagram at 35mm DOP.
There you go, Lucinda, where can people follow you?
Please follow me on Twitter at Lucinda Rhodes, and please follow Picture Perfect on Twitter at PicPerf Limited, or on Instagram, Lucinda R. Thakrar, and Picture Perfect, PicPerf Movies.
And you really should follow the guys, especially at Picture Perfect, because they're constantly casting, they're constantly looking for actors and DPs there. But generally, if you're an actor, do get in touch, because if you're on their radar, if you're on Lucinda's radar, it will come to me if she likes you. So yeah, it's really important to do that. You've been amazing for listening this far. I do hope you've learned something. You can go out there and make your indie film. Look to the stars, not down to your feet. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it's your duty to send the elevator back down. You're all amazing. Thanks so much for listening. Join us next Tuesday when we'll be chatting to Dean Fisher, Terry Dwyer, and Michael Elkin as they chat through their amazing movie Break, which is getting a drive-in movie release, the first premiere of its kind in the UK on July the 22nd. So that's next week, so join us for that. For now though, go watch Arthur Merlin, Knights of Camelot. If you don't watch it, just give a nice review anyway. Do you know what I mean? Support, do what you can. Follow us on Twitter and retweet all our stuff right now. It means the world to us. Andy, thank you.
Thank you.
Lucinda, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye everyone, take care.
Bye guys. Woo.
Bye everyone. I'm now going to go sleep in a corner somewhere. Good night.